Welcome to another Friday afternoon live stream chat. I'm Jonathan Whitcomb. Please feel free to participate today. It'll take a while to get the conversations going here. This is August 27th, 2021. I'm going to get into sightings in England, pterodactyl sightings in England. And before we do that, though, I want to get into something a little different. Okay, this is something to do with Idaho in the United States. The sighting that is on the YouTube video for a number of years. It shows one of the things is the parent pterodactyl. Here's the model I use, this convenient plastic model. But it shows it moving this way and then going like this, which is incorrect. It's apparently a 3D model, not an actual physical being or a physical object in the real world. It's a 3D animation object, and with a pterodactyl, when it turn, if it's possible to turn like this quickly, it would go like that, because flying creatures, birds, bats, pterosaurs, they're all very light compared to the wing area. It's not like a fighter jet, but it's not like an airplane. But if it's coming like this, and that if it was to tip down even a little bit, it would immediately start going down. This turned a lot, and it only goes slightly down. And it should have, if it was a real object, if it had gone like that, it would just drop really fast. So that's a fake. Unfortunately, it's not a real video of a pterosaur. But now let's get into this. Shropshire, pterosaur sightings in England. I haven't been in England since I was a young man, which tells you how ancient that part of the world is. It was a half a century ago when I was in this part of central England. I didn't take these photos. These are from another source, but we're going to get into this particular blog post. Gorgeous castle here. I didn't see this when I was there when I was a young man. Just gorgeous countryside I'll never forget. It's just dreamlike. It's like absolutely gorgeous landscapes. Oh, so gorgeous. So let's see, anybody come yet? Yes, we do have Nick's Cipher. Thank you for being here, Nick. You're very faithful here. You're here again. It's right on time. I was a little late getting started. And John, thanks for being here. Greetings. And John, you're from Texas? I forgot. No, I'm confusing you with somebody else. Anyway, grateful you're here. And you two can participate now right away before other people come on. I'm going to promote also the new animal discovery nonprofit organization that still has the paperwork in process. You need to contact me. Go to this page. It should be on near the bottom or so of the description area of each of my videos. It should be. Let me know if I miss them, because people need to contact me for various reasons. But here's the thing, pterodactyl sightings in England. So let's get right into this now. This is a blog post I wrote a few years ago, and I'm going to get right on this myself. I just read off some of the things that this says. That this is, let's see, talking about my investigations. And okay, here it is. Pterosaur sighting in Shropshire, England. This is not a rumor I found on the internet or a third-hand account related to me of one of my cryptozoology associates. A lady sent me an email just last week, and here is a small part of what she said. I've made some changes in punctuation. Quote, "First, let me introduce myself. My name is I am a mother of four, and I'm 32 years old. I live in Britain on the Welsh border in an area called Whitchurch, Shropshire. I may now add that I am in the best of health mentally. I do not take any form of narcotics nor prescription pills, and I do not drink. With that out of the way, I will now tell you what I have seen and the reason as to why I have contacted you. 2 weeks ago, mid-afternoon, I went to the garden to play with my cat, a usual occurrence for me as I love my cats. Anyway, we live near a wildlife preserve, which is an abundance of birds and wildlife, including eagles and hawks, heron, geese, swans, etc. It's usual for them to fly overhead, and I see them flying. I saw two pterodactyl excuse me, I saw two pterodactyls side by side flying past the tree. With at least one of them, she noticed a giant-sized beak, and the wings had no feathers. The two flying creatures were gray in color. Okay, unquote. Not all of those are exact quotes, but most of it is. Okay, there are more on the blog post. She was stunned after devoting some time to research all the birds she could find, birds in England and elsewhere. Apparently nothing seemed to fit what she had seen, but the most impressive difference to her was the sound of the screech of the two apparent pterosaurs that had flown through that area of Shropshire in September of 2017. No bird call was close to that sound. And just let me read a little bit of this blog post. If you can bear with me, okay? A little bit more about this. I suggest that these two flying creatures may be related to the Ropen of Papua New Guinea, a large rhamphorhynchoid pterosaur. Like the Ropen, the two seen in daylight in Shropshire may actually be mostly nocturnal. Perhaps they were disturbed in daylight and so flew into the air when they would normally be sleeping. Now, you can't see what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the actual web page. But you can see from this that this is the title of that blog post. If you want to go there, let's look this up. It's a WordPress blog. Yeah, from 2017. So let's see if we got any more people coming in. Yeah, we do. Dinosaur Tortoise, thank you for joining us. That's super. Yeah, thank you for coming. And David K. Nakauri. Hi, oh, hello there, David K. I don't recall that you've been here before. I don't recognize your name, but we're very welcome. Feel free to participate and comment, ask questions, and whatever you like to contribute. Jim Sack, again, thank you for coming back, Jim. Delighted that you're here with the rest of us already so early. These are the Friday afternoon live stream chats that we have that come from Utah in the United States. I'm in Murrah, Utah, in the Salt Lake Valley, central Utah. And for me right now, it's 4:40 in the afternoon. Of course, it'd be 6:40 in West Coast and 3:40 in California, Oregon, Washington State. And John says, I was in Texas when I saw a pterosaur in between Laredo and Austin in 2014. Thank you for bringing that up, John. That is super. That is super. People need to know that these sightings are all over the world, not just a particular country or a particular climate. Generally, they're uncommon animals, if not rare, and they're mostly nocturnal. So we don't have millions of sightings coming in with reports coming in. Fortunately, I'd be swamped. I can't handle millions of sighting reports. But grateful for those that do let us know about this, like John here. Nick Cipher, good day all. And if they're featherless, perhaps they're semi-aquatic. Well, yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it. Yeah, there are definitely seem to be at least comfortable in the water. At least some of the Ropens, like the Ropen of Umboy Island, it's quite comfortable diving into the water over the reefs that surround the island there. And there are other accounts that they catch fish in other parts of Papua New Guinea and other parts of the world too. In fact, in the United States too, there's accounts that indicate that they do go after fish. And Jess Place SFS, thanks so much for coming here again, Jess. You've been here before, I know, at least once before. I'm delighted you're come back here. So let's get into this. Shropshire is generally central England. It's not the only place where people have sightings in England, not at all. I've had reports from different areas in England over the past 18 years, including southern England, and not too many from Western Europe other than England. But I have one sighting report years ago in Amsterdam, Netherlands. I was there too in the same vacation I took with my family in 1972. We crossed the channel and went on the mainland of Europe. We saw Amsterdam. And then, what do you know, decades later, I'm an old man and I receive a eyewitness sighting report of a pterodactyl there just on the northern area of Amsterdam. And I've been there. It's interesting. Small world. And I get so many sighting reports from Louisiana. I used to live there not quite so many decades ago. Delighted that we can get into this. Now, I didn't take these photos. This is not my photos. I got them from a company that I got a license for to use photos and videos and so on. Gorgeous, gorgeous places in the countrysides. The interesting thing about this particular sighting report from this mother of at least, I think, 2 children at least, is that, as I recall, it was just a few months or so before her sighting, maybe at least less than a year, as I recall, before her sighting. There was another sighting also in Shropshire, but not exactly the same part of Shropshire. But that's no coincidence. Something's going on there on that year when that sighting, something was going on there. I haven't had any in the last 2-3 years, but yeah, I hope people will get the word out and feel comfortable to join us in, of course, these live stream chats, of course, but also in contacting me by email. And yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you, Jess. Super here. If there was any sightings recently in England, was there any? Okay. I don't have so many reports coming in the last, always, but in just the last few months. I don't recall one from England in the last few months. I'm going to go chat back and check, though, sometime. I don't recall any in the last few months. But I'm sure there are sightings that come in every year and every few months at least. It's, of course, possible that they might just be an animal that comes in temporarily from another part of that part of the world, another part of Europe or Africa, perhaps, and they might not be actually permanently in England. But I suspect they could be one or more Ropens or so on in England. They're just nocturnal, not seen a lot. Yes, yeah, south is near me, sir. That's super. Yes, I remember, Jess, you're in England. That's super. And I think we got into this once before, earlier this year, about sightings in England. But yeah, I'd like to see one too. Yeah, absolutely. And Jim says something. Sometimes hundreds of cats are found snipped cleanly in half. I wonder perhaps if the pterosaurs do that with their tooth beaks. I don't know. I'll tell you one thing, talking about house cats and pets like cats, is that we have just a few miles south of me. Yeah, the background is not where I live. There's no pterosaur flying behind me constantly. It's just a background from some part of the world. But from my direction, from where I'm sitting in my office here, it's just a few miles south of me. There was incredible sightings a number of years ago in different parts of that neighborhood. It's called Draper, Utah. And one of the accounts was not a sighting, it was a hearing. This teenage girl reported that just next door, this is from the house that had an incredible sighting, but a Ropen flying right over the house, not too far over the roof of the house, scaring a 12-year-old boy and his mother. They ran inside. Jess says, I'm from Southeast London. Okay, Jess, thank you so much for telling us, Southeast London. Dino Tortoise, I've been dreaming about the ones I've seen. I wish I could have gotten on camera. Yeah, right. Okay. Old timer. Thank you for joining us, old timer. Wonder if these are connected, with the Thunderbirds Native Americans speak of. Well, I believe some reports that use the term Thunderbird, but remember, it's not when somebody uses that as a label, that doesn't tell us much necessarily. People come up with whatever thing comes to their mind. Pterodactyl, flying dinosaur, dragon. Sometimes in England, dragon probably would be obviously something that comes up, but it does in the United States the word dragon comes up. So whatever word they use, I'm interested in what they actually say, the description of what they say. That's what I like to hear. Just tell me what it looked like, what happened, how you experienced, just what you were thinking. I'm delighted to know what eyewitnesses were thinking, what they experienced during the sighting, how they reacted to us. I'm interested in people, not just animals. I'm very interested in people. so the issue that we have so much rain all the time that it's really hard to see any pterosaurs clearly. Oh yeah, in England, let's see, certain times of the year, yeah, you got rain there. And the old timer lives in Wyoming. Super. Well, sometime we'll have something about a sighting in Wyoming. I think we haven't. We'll get into that if I can find a Dino tortoise. Old time. My wife's tribe defense knows of these pterosaurs, thunderbirds. They fly up when volcanoes go. Interesting. Hadn't thought about that. But in England, we have sightings going back years. I suspect there's at least one pterosaur, Ropen probably, that is just spending its time in England and finding things to eat. But talking about the house cat, getting back to the house cat here, this was in Draper, Utah, just a few years ago, and I interviewed, face to face, my wife and I interviewed these people who had the hearing and sighting and the hearing of this, what this girl said. Teenage girl said right next door to where they had the sighting, but on a different day or night, not the same day. Not the same day as a sighting, but she heard a cat screeching, and suddenly the screeching was cut off, like it was killed or something, or silenced somehow. That's a scary thing to hear. I'm afraid it's connected. And on the other side of the house, I interviewed a man who said he had chickens there. And he had them fenced in. They're enclosed, but something got in, didn't eat the chickens, but stomped them, squished them, just squished them. I thought, oh, gross. That might be related. It's just next door to where the Ropen flew over the house. Anyway, yeah, cats are susceptible, just like dogs are if they're left out. And be aware we have another video. I mean, an attack on a dog is almost carried away. But let's get back to the chat here. There was a legend that King slayed the dragon that came from the cave, and the way they described it could very well be a theropod dinosaur. Yes, there are certain descriptions, perhaps, that might indicate either a dinosaur or a pterosaur in some of those old accounts. And Henricus Realms, thank you so much for coming back, Henricus. The Thunderbird lore, one version of it, is that the hunting party, Lakota, I believe, was out and caught out in a thunderstorm and saw a pterosaur get struck and killed by lightning. Oh, that's interesting. Jim Sack, I guess they could hunt and eat owls too. Well, who knows all the things that modern pterosaurs might eat at night? We don't have any eyewitnesses. On occasion, we do see what they're feeding on and see what they're eating. Sometimes it's fish, and sometimes other things. Dino tortoise, the painting Suicide of Saul from 1500s, has creatures, including definite sauropods, for transport during war. Interesting. Yeah, I don't recall that particular painting. We could get artwork sometime. I was hoping to get some artwork from Europe here of dragons and so on, but I just didn't have time to gather them together this evening. So busy with other things and other YouTube videos and other matters. But yeah, we should get into more images of that sometimes. Henricus Realms, after hunting around for a number of days, they found it dead and bones. That's as far as I know. By the way, it was away from my computer last Friday. Well, glad you're back, Henricus. And maybe you can tell people about this, have them join us. I'm just going to take a quick peek, though you can't see what I'm looking at. I'm going to just see what kind of participation we have here. It's looking good. We've got some people on here, people watching and listening, and we're delighted that we can all be together with this. Pterosaurs in old times were not called, of course, pterodactyls. The word pterodactyl came about around the end of the 1700s, early 1800s. People started using the word more. And then later, the word pterosaur was used as a technically correct scientific word for the general type of creature. But yeah, long ago they would call them dragons. And the idea that all of them are extinct is really an old idea. It's not scientific. Of course, to say that every single species is extinct is not scientific. It's just so commonly assumed and it's taken for granted. It's just an assumption that many scientists just use, and they just, it's just repeated over and over again. And the people who are not scientists perhaps do the most repeating of it. They did, all pterosaurs became extinct 66 million years ago, and without any explanation ever. I mean, I've been watching TV documentaries and reading about these things from the traditional point of view of what we call it, orthodox paleontology view of what the scientists say about them. Just, all of them became extinct. Well, that's not scientific. There's no evidence. You can't tell anything like remotely like that from a fossil. Okay, next I'm going to look up the suicide of Paul. That painting, that's great. And Jess says, so what about Geosternbergia? That is a type of pterosaur. If somebody wants to look up that, great. I can't do it while I'm involved with this. Yeah, it's Sierra Diclus. Yeah, whatever. Jim says, fishing boats shine their lights down to the water to attract fish to them. I guess pterosaurs might. Yes, I can tell you a story about that, in fact. Hoochie Wooch, thank you so much for coming back. You've been here before, I know. Delighted you're back. Here's the thing. When I was on Umbo Island in 2004 in Papua New Guinea in the Southwest Pacific on my expedition, I interviewed a number of natives. One of them was a man, what is his name? I interviewed him with his two sons were with him, two little boys were with him at the time. I videotaped him. His name slips my mind, but he was out at night with his friend, and they were out in a canoe, out fishing with what they call a torch. It's a flashlight. It was what Americans call a flashlight. Britons in Britain and the UK and Australia, of course, call it a torch, an electric light, and waterproof, of course. And they take it down, and they get the fish to be put to sleep, and they just grab the fish. It's easier to catch fish. Well, he was there, and while they were doing that, he was in the boat, and his friend was underwater. A big flash of light lit up everything all around him. Big flash of light. Lasted a few seconds, then it was gone. I'm sure it was the Ropen, but he told me about that. The chief difference of dinosaurs is that dinosaurs have hips similar to mammals and the legs straight down from the hips, whereas lizards have legs splayed out. I think crocs, etc. No, thank you for mentioning that, because old-timer. Just play us. Are you familiar with the character Peppermint Patty from Charlie Brown? Dino Tortoise. My ancestors, Vikings, put dragons on the front of their ships to scare sea dragons, sea dinosaurs. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that. That's an interesting way. I knew they had those kind of things in the front of their big boats, or I guess you call them small ships. But I didn't think about it in that sense. Interesting. Can you please tell me about it? Okay. Okay, let's get back to here. Anybody joining us, August 27, 2021, Shropshire, England is the sighting report that we have. This lady saw it and heard the screech of it. And she didn't know about this other sighting that happened a number of months earlier in the same area of England in Shropshire, but just not that neighborhood in Shropshire. And she saw these two pterosaurs fly through, and they were huge. They were much too big to be any bird, and they didn't look like birds at all. And as she told her husband, the husband was not that supportive, but he listened to her. And then she had her son come in one day out of the backyard, just terrified, and she knew he wasn't playing a joke. He was scared, and he said he saw this gigantic bird. And his sister was in the yard but didn't see it. She was in another part of the yard, but she heard it. She heard the noise, and she's good at imitating sounds. Well, the mother asked her daughter, make the sound, and she imitated the sound, and the mother realized it's the same sound she had heard when she had seen the two pterosaurs. So she's convinced that one of them had flown over the backyard. These can be dangerous on occasion. I mean, recently I've been getting more into this. It's not the specialty of this particular live stream chat we're having this evening, but let people know about this. They need to know that occasionally, once in a while, once in a however long, one of these can be dangerous. And let's see, next type of suicide pod does most indeed show parent sauropods across the lake in the distance. Interesting. Thank you, Nux, for telling us about that. 1562 is the date of the painting. I presume it's a painting you're talking about. Jim said, so they generate a huge flash offshore besides the green glow. Yes, and this particular one, Jim, the particular Ropen, whatever species are involved, this one has a very bright flash, but it's very short. It's about 6 seconds, perhaps, more or less. And it just cannot maintain that intense light for very long. It just goes out. It can't maintain that intense light, but it is intense. And that's generally the way this one on Umboy Island in the Southwest Pacific presents the light. Just extremely bright, extremely short. There are some on the mainland of Papua New Guinea, which is not that far away, more than 10 miles, but it's reasonably close. And that other type, if it is a different species or not, whatever, they will present something similar sometimes in some areas where they will keep a flash for about 6 seconds and then it go off. So we know it's not the only one of its kind. It's not the last one on the earth. The Ropen is just one of a number of species. But there's another type that comes out in the mainland, which can glow for a longer period of time. Whether it's another species or not, I don't know. And Poochie Wooch says, from your first reaction to watching Trade to now, and have you seen his other videos? No, I don't really want to watch his other videos, seeing what he did with my research for 18 years. How can I trust the other things he puts out, It's not even puts his real name. He's anonymous. Last time I checked, he's practically anonymous. Having a first name come out for a video is not really telling you who it is. It's just Trey could maybe not even his real name, but who knows. But anyway, Nick says, however, they lack the typical long tails that distinguish a stereotypical sauropod. Oh, interesting. Jim says, reports of huge green flashes over the ocean in California beaches often. Well, I have some reports of also, bioluminescence in California. Yeah, definitely, there are some. And I'm not saying that everything that's a Ropen or any other kind of pterosaur in California is all the same species. I'm not saying that. I don't really know that. It's just a possibility. And of course, some of those reports, a minority of them, but there are a few, and especially there are some in San Fernando Valley a number of years ago. I got more than 4 people reported to me this glowing, gigantic flying creature glowing at night, not too high above their heads when they're taking walks at night. Whoa, yeah. So, an idea what time of year that Shropshire, UK sighting was? Well, the first one of that man that was taking a walk, not the one of the mother who had 2 children, but the first one a few months earlier than that was in February. And I don't recall the time of year for the one that I mainly was talking about from the family of 2 children. Dino Torres, modern science hides most truths that humans have recorded past to us through their children, rebellion, and guilt, spawns of regression and death. Wow, that's kind of deep. Fuji Wooch, his real name is actually Treus Sweatin. Oh, okay. Yeah, but I think I might have found his real name earlier this year, but you have to really search for it. He doesn't really put it out as far as last time I checked. He doesn't really put it out to make it easier for people to know who he is. But the thing is, he never contacted me. He put out this long video and all kinds of rumors. The things that you find online that are unsubstantiated by other people who never contact me generally. There's an exception. Generally, they're rumors that people that haven't contacted me either. So, but somebody catches them as something negative, so they add that to the video, this negative about the possibility of Ropens, and they get this extremely narrow point of view and conjecture upon conjecture. And I got, I don't want to get into it, but it's just so much nonsense. It's Trey the Explainer. He just does such a great disservice, and he could have done something reasonably well. And of course, I can't say that every single sighting report I have is of an encounter with a living pterosaur. Generally, the vast majority of them I feel are. And occasionally I will get one that I'm not sure about, or there may be a problem with, but that's the exception. Generally, the people that go the trouble to contact me are, for the most part, the real eyewitnesses of modern pterosaurs. And I have ways of dealing with possibilities of a hoax or so on. I have ways of going about looking into that possibility. Dinosaurs crisscross shooting stars and glowing lights have been witnessed as nocturnal terrors. I've only seen them in the day, one of the size of a small plane right overhead. Well, thank you, Dinosaurs, for telling us. It's important to keep in mind that it can be difficult sometimes to tell what a flying light is. But there are times, like in San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles County a few years ago, where they're definitely flying creatures. They have wings. They have flying creatures, and that glows. Very possibly the exact same animal. It was just like days or weeks apart. There are two sightings. Each sighting was with a couple, four eyewitnesses total. And there's other sightings in that part of San Fernando. Generally, there's some correlation with a storm channel. It's either close to storm channel or over a storm channel, reasonably close to storm channel. Like the Los Angeles River, that's the biggest storm channel in the Los Angeles County. And it's because I believe that they use that, and I don't know, there might not be very many of them, but they use that to navigate at night to get through the county there. And Henricus, that's not the most cold season I have heard about. These critters seem to be more cold tolerant than we have given credit for. That's true. Henricus just brought up a good point. These creatures are not just warm weather things that hibernate and sleep all winter wherever they are, or only live in jungles where it's always warm. No, not at all. We have quite a few sightings that indicate that they can survive the cold, just as many other kinds of animals. And for example, in North America, in Canada, for example, they have ways of dealing with the cold weather in the winter, and they survive and come back again. Now, a lot of it is hibernation, true, but not all of it is hibernation. And the pterosaurs, just because one is seen in the winter, does not mean that they generally like to come out in the winter. It could be that they had an emergency and they wanted to stay under cover and to keep out of the cold, but they had to come out for some reason or other, disturbed or from their nest or whatever, a cave or whatever. Pucci wishes, I think those sauropods in the painting are just camels. Oh, it's possible. I haven't looked at it, so I'd be speculating, but we need to be aware in old paintings that sometimes the paintings are made by artists who have never seen the animals themselves. They're just going by what people have told them, or somewhat by other older paintings other people painted, and they perhaps just got a description of a camel and tried to draw it. It's possible. That's the challenge we have with old artwork like the paintings. However, there are some of those artworks, and like paintings, that indeed do look like dinosaurs and pterosaurs. They have some indication, maybe, even though still they're not exact. They're kind of suggestive. Yeah. There's a challenge there. It's not our best form of evidence, but there are certain things that people describe about them that indicate they're not common animals that were known to live on England, for example. Some of these dragons in England, you know, you can't say, oh, it's just an elephant that swam across the English Channel. And it didn't look like an elephant anyway in the paintings. So what are you going to do? But there are definite stories about certain locations in England where two dragons were fighting, or something, for example, or a particular dragon was eating sheep or whatever. It doesn't match up with animals that are commonly known to have existed in England for centuries. Wayne Clark says, what is this going on? There is a tick bell that we all haven't seen. Okay, that's it. Wayne, not going to pay attention to Wayne here. It's not useful. No. We're not going to deal with that, Wayne. By the way, let's let you know what's involved here. We don't, I don't, I'm the one that decides. I don't allow people to come on anywhere, whether it's on the live stream or whether it's a comment on one of the videos after they come out on the YouTube system. That's just totally negative and making fun of people and insulting people and so on. You know what I mean? You know, those people. We don't allow that. Frost dragons, dragons that wander out even in the cold. Interesting. Dragon fighting witnessed occurred at a place called Shropshire Meadow. That sounds familiar. I think I've heard about that in Henricus. Certain locations are sometimes are named for one or more dragons that were doing something in that particular part of England, and they're known for that, which is kind of interesting that they would have a place, a precise location in England with a name that indicates a particular dragon was doing a particular thing. It is suggestive that maybe they were real animals. Nick says, well, it's believed most dinosaurs were warm-blooded. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know much about dinosaurs, but I know that my associates and I have considered seriously that pterosaurs, at least the Ropen, like the Ropen on Island, is either warm-blooded or at least not cold-blooded in the traditional sense, where there may be something in between, but it's not cold-blooded. So many of them are seen in cold areas at cold times. Putchy Butch, another one of Trey's defense, he didn't said it wasn't impossible that extinct creatures are still around. Well, yeah, but why do you only look at rumors that are negative toward the point, and you never interview anybody that's seriously investigating, and not interviewed me or not interviewed one of my associates? That's the thing I'm concerned about. Just taking any negative thing and just putting it into a video and making money on it from having 1 million views. It's not an excuse to make money and think, oh, you're making money, so you just do it. You should have more sense of what's right and just reasonable when you're researching. Talk to the people who are really doing the research and serious about it. Talk to them, not just imagine what they're thinking and so. Or assuming that the worst things must be true because bad things have to be true. When somebody says something bad about something, then that bad thing must be true about the person. No, it's nonsense. And, living pterosaurs versus extinct fossils. Of course, there's much we don't know yet. In Shropshire, it seems to be a Ropen, long-tailed flying creature. It seems to be seen by a number of different eyewitnesses, not necessarily year after year, but still, what was it? It wasn't a bird. And I think, what do they eat? Well, there's plenty to eat. I mean, what are you going to think when a farmer says, oh, one of his sheep was carried away? How does the farmer communicate that with anybody. I saw a big flying creature carry off my lamb. Well, who's he going to report it to that's going to result in anything, even get it in the newspapers, you know? Some of the skeptics are so naive. Excuse me, but I'm not talking about everybody, but just over the years, they assume, well, if pterosaurs were alive, then of course they'd be discovered and, you know, they'd be in the newspapers and everybody would believe it. The scientists would go out and study it. No, it's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Western scientists in general, at least especially in particular in the United States and Western Europe, they have an assumption that they've held on to for many human generations, for over a century. They generally hold on to that unless there's something that forces them to give it up. And just so having one sighting report, people will think that that's just one. They have no idea that in the United States, there are 300,000 or so, more or less, Americans who've had a really good sighting of a modern pterosaur. Really good. I don't know how many in England, but I'm sure it's more than 3. I'm absolutely sure. More than 3. 300,000 in the United States. And those are not counting the sightings where it's not perfectly clear. In other words, these are the sightings where, when I say good sighting, I mean where somebody sees something that just shocks them into realizing that sure looks like a pterodactyl. It really looks like it. I can't figure out why it should be a bird, you know. And people really, almost without exception, they really try to figure out how they might be seeing it wrong. Somehow the angle is wrong. What's going on? Something has to be wrong in the way that they're looking at it. Because how could it be a pterodactyl? And they try to figure out how could be a regular bird of some type. And it just doesn't work out. People either give up or the eyewitness will just set it aside. I don't want to think about it. Or they'll tell somebody and the other person will ridicule them or make fun of them. And then they'll stop and they won't talk about it anymore. Or sometimes, on a rare occasion, a person will do research online and they'll find out that other people have seen modern pterosaurs too. And that will then, a lot of those people will then say, oh, great, I don't have to worry about it. And then they forget about it. They never contact me. That's normal. They never contact me. And it's the exception, the person that actually gets in touch with me somehow. And Pucci wished Romans or Greeks already knew that the world is round and reports of talking cows. I don't know about talking cows. That's beyond my knowledge. But yeah, the world is round. That's ancient knowledge. It's been known for a long time. Nothing new about it. Nothing revolutionary. It's not from any conspiracy. No. Countries all over the world, people are sending up satellites and probes and things into space from different countries with different cultures, you know, and different backgrounds. They're all the same. The satellites circle the Earth and they get the photos and videos. And the Earth is like a gigantic ball, though it's a little bit squished in a sense, but it's, you know, generally like a ball shape. Yeah, that's the way it is, and it's been known for a long time. But we don't want to get too much into that, because we have pterodactyls that are still alive now, which is weird. Dino Tortoise, the Chinese Russian jewelers are growing rock. Fossils are rock. Rocks is made similar to other precious gems. Well, that's an interesting point, and I know some people that are doing some research on that. Not my specialty, but I find it interesting that some things can grow much quicker and be produced much quicker than people had assumed they would, including stalactites and stalagmites and oil, for example, much, much faster than it used to be assumed. Dino Tortoise, the same conditions for growing rock and fossils were during the universal flood. Yeah, that's a good point. Nick says China has been caught making fake fossils several times. Oh, well, that's interesting. But it's not my specialty. I can't talk to that. But I will say that we do have things that we will be getting into as we get more volunteers to help out with our organization and spend some time in research and share that research. Animal discovery will be a major step forward in and finding out the truth about these incredible flying creatures. Now, there may be possibly other things that we'll research besides pterosaurs, modern pterodactyls, and ropens in the future, but this is definitely the number one thing that we're starting with now. And we can't, as of today, August 27th, 2021, we can't accept a donation today. We're not set up yet for that. But that day is coming. If anybody wants to contact me with anything else, please feel free to do so. I'm going to look very quickly here on the statistics of what's happening with the number of viewers we have. It's going a little down now. So we're going to start getting ready to wrap it up. So, delighted with the chats we've had here today. Yeah, there's a lot of atheism coming out, and people want to ridicule people that believe in modern pterosaurs. I'm referring to the quartz, which is used to run technology such as PO's electric properties, so they specify isn't fake. Anyway, whatever is going on there in China, we're grateful for the legends in China, or the dragon legends, and the ancient zodiac, the calendar system, and so on in China, where they have the circle and so on. And almost all the animals are known to be real animals. There's no disputing it, real animals. And then they have the dragon. Well, Chinese dragon is if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's has small wings or something. Anyway, very long, skinny, long tail. And they had that, and whatever it was, they treated it as a real animal, and it was discussed and in their history as if it was a real animal. So let's get together again soon. I'm not going to carry this on to a whole hour because I think we've gotten what we needed tonight. I might occasionally come back with a particular subject during the week, not Fridays, and we'll get a live stream there if you happen to catch me there. And it might be on this, usually on this channel. It might be on the other channel, which is Jonathan Whitcomb is the name of the other channel, which has a number of videos about modern pterosaurs on that channel. But this one, PAL, Protect Animal Life, this one is definitely number one in the world. Well over 100, I think last time I checked, 183 videos, almost every single one of them about modern pterosaurs. So come back here to this channel and tell other people about it, refer your friends. If you're not subscribed, why not just subscribe, hit the bell notifications button. If you like it, just click the like button. And we have a small group right now, but it's very devoted, good followers, and good discussions, good participation. Even though we're a small community right now, it is capable of growing. We can grow bigger. And especially since I've spent so many years on this, I'm making just 50 cents a week, and it's not exactly what I was expecting, but 50 cents a week is not quite worth the thousands of hours that I've spent on this. So if you have anybody else you want to refer here, please do so. I need to make more than 50 cents a week gross, because there are expenses that are a lot more than 50 cents a week. So thank you for joining us. Sorry if the sound is gone. I don't know what happened, but we got to go now. Have a wonderful weekend. God bless.